What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Curly Fries YouTube channel, where I basically take my TikToks and upload them into a longer, more in-depth guide on whatever we're talking about today. And today we're going to be talking about the man, the myth, the legend, Geraldo. Again, if you guys don't know, he's one of the strongest heroes right now in BGD 6 with just all the items that he has in his shop and just how good they are in general. And I'm going to be going into each and every one of these that you can use in chimps that are the best or the worst or the ones that you should use in the tight situations where you really need it. So let's just get right into it. Starting off with this first item, the shooting turret. Now this guy is honestly an extremely strong tower. I'll put some yellows at it and it can take it down pretty well, and this is only one of them. They're extremely strong, not the best attack speed, however high damage and high pierce makes it an extremely good early game tower. Should you be using this in most of your chimps run? No. However, for the more difficult maps, you should really be using them, especially for the ones like magic only, primary only, and military only. They're extremely good because they're basically a dart monkey, but more pierce and more damage. Same with this tier 2 ones. This basically just makes it so it has higher damage, higher pierce, higher attack speed. This is an extremely good shooting turret. However, like the other things, at this point you're probably going to already have extremely good defense, so you're not really going to need this guy. However, do not sleep on him because his pierce, damage, and attack speed make it an extremely good tower. But again, you're never going to really be using this thing because you're probably going to have better towers once you unlock it. Next, his spikes. Now, his spikes, I personally basically never use them in any of my chimps game, unless it's a map like Bloody Puddles or Muddy Puddles. They can hold quite a lot of balloons, but really, if you think about it, they're only really good for just putting them at the end of the track in case you're gonna leak a few lives. You're never really using them in any other situation. His round 20 tacks are basically the same as his first ones, except, a little explosion they have, but you're not ever really going to be using them. Sure, they have a lot of pierce, and I agree they have a lot of pierce, but compared to the price range and his other items in the shop, they're not really the best, However, for the more difficult maps like Bloody Puddles or any ones like that, you could probably see me using them because you're probably gonna leak a few lot. Let's just see how much purple balloons they can hold, alright? A little test. I'll tell you, they're doing pretty good. I'll say that. Let's throw some rainbows at them. Not the worst, however, you're really never going to be using them, mostly because, well, you get them at such a high level, you're definitely going to have higher defense in this. Next is Creeper Idol. Now, honestly, I'm probably not going to go too in depth about this thing because I never use this thing, The RNG on it is pretty meh. Look at all these purples that are getting by. Sure, it's only 2 of them, but I just feel like they're really RNG heavily, just heavily RNG, and you're rarely ever going to be using these just because of that reason. When you're going for that black border on chimps, these guys, you should not really be relying on these two to save your black border because you're probably going to have to back out of the game. I never use them and they don't really get upgraded, so I don't really recommend using these unless you have the extra over money or you have some super ceramics that you might think are going to leak and these guys can help you out. However, I'm not really ever using these guys. Now, his Jar of Pickles. His Jar of Pickles is arguably one of his best items just because it increases the it lowers the attack speed, but increases the damage by quite a lot. Geraldo can already one-shot rainbows on his own, but they're super strong, especially if your tower's like the tack. Here, I'll give you a little example. You give this guy a Jar of Pickles, he can already take them on. However, it just makes him so much better because he already has such a high attack speed and he has low damage, which makes it extremely powerful because it just doubles his damage basically. But remember, you're only supposed to use it with towers that have less than 4 damage, because at that point you're just killing your tower. However, an extremely good item, especially for snipers, tacks, any of those like that don't have that much damage, are extremely good for it. Now, his camo pot. I'm going to be adding them both because they basically do the same thing, except his white camo pots last 5 rounds longer and they increase the attacks. No, they don't increase the attack speed. They increase the damage of camo balloons, and they also increase the range of your whatever monkey you're putting on. Simple. They literally just make it so they can see camo balloons and a little more buffs once you level it up. However, an extremely good item, especially for the early game when you don't want to afford a 0-2-0 village or you don't have any camo popping power. Definitely one of his best items as well. Now, his glue. His glue is, I say this for many of his towers, but most of these things are extremely strong. His glue is so good. Obviously, it's not as good as it used to be, but this thing can still hold a lot of balloons, stun Moabs, BFBs, DDTs, which makes it extremely helpful for rounds like 98 when you got a few Moabs or Super SRAMs leaving, because they can help you out so much. They don't level up, however, they're extremely strong, and they're not as good as they used to be. However, definitely an item that you should 100% be using when you're using Geraldo. Now, his sharpening stones. You should never sleep on his, okay, you can't use it on that, but you should never sleep on his sharpening stones because of just how strong they are. All they do is just increase the damage of your tower by so much. There's no point that you should not be using them. They don't do any negatives to your tower. They just increase almost, like, it just makes the tower so much more powerful. However, you can only use it on things that have darts, which makes it only a little bit like tower dependent. However, if I'm correct, you can do a super monkey such as this and put a sharpening stone on it. And this thing, you do not want to sleep on this thing. This thing is super powerful with this sharpening stone. I mean, look at that damage per second. It's extremely good. It can save your run. It can increase the damage by so much. However, you can only use it on darts, but it's an extremely good item. Speaking of that super monkey we were just on, his Worn Hero's cape is next. Sorry for the stutter there. Now, it's very simple. I don't need to go too in depth. It literally just saves you money when you're getting a super monkey with the dart monkey. However, you can only get it into tier 3s, which isn't too crazy because in Chimps mode, you're not necessarily going to be getting anything that, crazy about it. And you're not going to really be getting tier 4 super monkeys unless, obviously that's about the strat. However, it's extremely strong just because of that. Don't sleep on it. However, you're not really ever going to use it much. Next, his arguably the top 3 best items, the blade trap. I mean, I can probably clean all these balloons up right here with just the blade trap. Let's just wait until they get there, I mean, just look at all those. I mean, didn't really do anything, but I mean, it's still super strong. The amount of pops you get with it, it can easily save a run. They're super good for the Moab on round 40. It's basically, you just put this thing with the glue and you're destroying the Moab no matter what. It's super strong, super easy to use. It's just something that is extremely good in his shop that you should definitely be using. Next, in my opinion, this is the second best item, the bottle of Jerry Fire's hot sauce. I mean, let's just look at his damage start to go up with this thing. That's about 750 a second, almost 1,000. And just for how much it was? $500 for that much, and you can place it on 3 monkeys? That's crazy, and it lasts 10 rounds. This is something that you should 100% be using because of just how strong it is here. I can probably put 4 to 5 Moabs and this thing will demolish it. I mean, just look at that. It's so strong. It just easily demolished all these Moabs, fortified Moabs. Super good. Second best item because it's cheap. Pop leads, pop camo leads if you put Jerry's little potion on it. Super good for rounds like 63 as well. Any of those high dense ceramic rounds make this an extremely good upgrade. Next, we have his bunnies. Now, I can't get it in challenge editor because I can't go past, more rounds. However, his bunnies are, they're not one of my favorite because you need to get 4 of them and they're quite expensive. However, they can extremely easily clean up rounds like 63, 76, or 78. Super good for those super ceramics that might leak because it has a lot of pierce and a lot of damage. However, like I said before, it's quite expensive to get all 4 of them. However, if you have Geraldo, there's a good chance you're gonna get all 4 of the rabbits, so do not be sleeping on these pet rabbits. Next is Rejuve Potion. Now, these things aren't the best for chimps because you're not gaining any lives. However, it's super good for rounds like 98 and 100 because if you have a first strike, let's say, you can just reset all the cooldowns. You can get 3 first strikes on the bad with just his Rejuve Potions. And in my opinion, for the price, it's extremely good because, like I just said, it can just reset any of the ability cooldowns at all. Extremely strong, however, not as good as it can be because you can't gain any more lives in Chimps. Next, his last, and obviously we saved the best for last, his Genie Bottles. These things have crazy damage, absolutely crazy. I mean, can probably take down fortified DDTs. I mean, wow, that's absolutely insane how good these things are. The amount of pops they get are quite crazy. The pierce is good. The damage is insane. These guys are definitely number 1s on the list, definitely, because they're expensive. They can only last a few rounds. However, you place one down on round 98, that's lasting you till round 100. I mean, look at all these fortified ZMGs that are just getting demolished by these 2 guys. The amount of damage they get is so good, and they're quite cheap for the price. 2,000. This is the same for the Rejuve, and look at how easily it'll demolish these fortified ZOMGs. Such a good tower, heavily recommend using it, and hopefully this video will help you guys out when actually choosing when to use Geraldo's items. I have to go in a bit, that's why I was kind of rushing this video. However, if you guys have anything to say in the comments down below, please let me know, and if you want to actually talk to me and play BTD6 with me, check out my Discord in the description below, or check out my TikTok because I upload the same videos just like this. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.